Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this new episode of Ask Huda. I am your host, Fuad Muhammad. Well, today we're honored to be in the presence of Dr. Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Doctor, and welcome to Ask Huda.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Fuad. It's my pleasure.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Jazakum.
We will not be receiving any phone calls today. That is because we've dedicated today's episode towards answering some of the many emails we've been receiving here on Huda TV. And if you have an email, you can send it to us at ask, that's ask@huda.tv. Doctor, our first email is from Lula Sulaiman from the United States of America. And she says that if a pious and righteous men are promised Hurul Ain, which are special wives in paradise, I would like to know if it applies to righteous women as well.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal aqibatu lil muttaqina. Wa la udwana illa ala zalimin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil awwalina wal akhirin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thumma amma ba'd. Allah the Almighty says in the Quran, في سورة النساء in verse number 32, للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسب. And that verse means to men is a share of what they have earned, and to women likewise. I wanted to begin with this verse in order to confirm that men and women in Islam are equal with regards to commandments, rules and regulations, do's and do not do's, as well as rewards and punishments.
Okay.
Allah the Almighty says by the end of Surah Ali Imran, لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى. The verse begins as follows: فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض.
Subhanallah.
Allah confirms that the deeds and the good righteous actions of the believers, whether ذكر or untha, male or a female, will not be wasted. They are not in vain. Have been securely written and recorded in a record with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will be presented for us on the day of judgment. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. And whosoever does an atom weight of good deed shall see it on the day of judgment. And whosoever does an atom weight of bad deeds on the day of judgment shall see it, without making any distinction between masculine or feminine, males or females. In several ahadith, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam promised the believers in heaven that the least share of one of whom at least two wives. In other ahadith narrated by Tirmidhi and others, indicating that Allah will give the believing men in heaven al-hurul ain, special wives with special characteristics, the most purified, the most chaste women, etc. Their description is also in details in Surah Ar-Rahman, by the end of Surah Ar-Rahman, the most gracious. So, what about women? Well, every woman, whoever of them will enter heaven, will also get married, either to her husband if he was righteous and he made it to heaven as well. Which one if she was married to more than one? To the last, as it is in the hadith, الْمَرْأَةُ لِآخِرِ أَزْوَاجِهَا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. A woman will be the wife of her last husband if she happened to be married to more than one. So on the day of judgment, when they all enter heaven, she will be married in heaven to the last husband she had in this life. But he would also have al-hurul ain, and we spoke repeatedly about their beauty and how beautiful they are. This woman who will make it to heaven will be the queen of al-hurul ain.
Subhanallah.
And Allah will cast beauty on her, which will make her much more beautiful than all of them.
Subhanallah.
So no woman will be left alone without getting married on heaven. As a matter of fact, in a hadith which is collected by both Al-Bukhari and Muslim, there will not be any azab in heaven. Azab means singles, whether of masculine nor or feminine. I want to tell you that eating and drinking and getting married in heaven, unlike those needs in this life. We eat and we drink because we have to survive. This is not the case.
Okay.
Eating and drinking in heaven and having the sexual contact is not for the same goals and objectives that we try to achieve in this life. No, it's for joy and delight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in heaven we will experience what no eye have ever seen. He said, وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي أَنفُسُكُمْ وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَدَّعُونَ. In it, you shall get whatever you desire and whatever you claim, whatever you want, you will definitely get in heaven. Furthermore, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, في الجنة ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر. Those who make it to heaven for there is nothing that's called why and that's too much or because there is no more takalif. Everything is without limit. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي أَنفُسُكُمْ. Whatever you desire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will satisfy the desire of both men and women, both alike in heaven. Anything that they desire, there is nothing that's called prohibited. There's nothing called restricted. Because restrictions and prohibitions were only in this life as means of tests and trials. So the Jannah is totally different. So what we need to focus on, whether men or women, is how to enter heaven.
Of course.
Not what shall we expect in heaven, because that's guaranteed. مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ, what no eye have ever seen. مَا لَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ, what no ears have ever heard of. وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ, what no man have ever thought of. Allah has prepared all of that to the dwellers of heaven. Some women would say, but I'm so jealous, and I cannot see my husband married to other than me. Well, this is the dunya law, the law and the characteristics of the worldly life. This is not the case in al-akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِمْ مِنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. There is no jealousy, nor hatred, nor hurt feeling, nor sadness, nor sorrow in heaven. There is no such thing. So you need to think about it as a different life, totally prepared in a different format for the believers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all of us among the dwellers of heaven. For example, while we're not allowed to drink here in this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the believers with rivers of wine. وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. So there will be rivers of wine. But what kind of wine? Wine, no matter how much you drink, you will not get intoxicated. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خِتَامُهُ مِسْكٌ, indicating the wine that we drink in this life, or those who drink, humans, who drink wine in this life, again, it's Allah's decree. If you see them, when they drink, they're drinking medicine. It's very bitter in taste, especially the last test. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in al-Jannah, al-khamr, or wine which is prepared for the dwellers of heaven, will taste so sweet and delicious. And those who will drink it will not get intoxicated, to the extent that khitamuhu misk, the last drop of it, will be of the pure musk, or sealed with musk. So this is totally different. Yes, it may share the name, but not the characteristics, not the features, not the nature.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Her second question is a bit technical. She said, if our fate is decided by Allah, and before we're born, and in what way is my hard work, good deeds, and prayers going to help me? Because she says, sometimes I say to myself, no matter what I do, my fate is already decided, and I don't think I need to do anything.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said في سورة الليل, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. Some of the companions actually asked the Prophet ﷺ this same very question. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have already decreed for us, as in the lengthy hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and it's a sound hadith, since you and I were in the womb of our mothers, and before or at the time of breathing the soul into the fetus, once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angel to breathe the soul in him and to make him a boy or a girl or live or dead, etc., among the words or the commands that the angel would write in the record of this person, whether shaqi or a sa'id, whether he will be amongst the dwellers of heaven or the dwellers of fire. The companions or some of them said, Ya Rasulullah, if this is the case, فَفِيمَ الْعَمَلِ, if my fate is already predetermined and ordained by Allah, why do I have to work? Here is the real test, which is testing your iman. One of the articles of faith, which is the sixth article of faith, is وَأَن تُؤْمِنَ بِالْقَدَرِ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ. What are the constituents of al-imanu bil-qadr? Number one, to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite knowledge is vast and beyond limit. So before He created us, He knew your fate and mine, because He knew what you will be doing and what I will be doing and our choices. Yes, He created every living creature. All the khalq are being created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only al-ins wal-jinn. If I may say in order, al-jinn wal-ins, because jinn were before humans.
Yes.
Jinn and humans are the only two creatures whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them what we call it the free will to choose. And that's why there is no heaven nor far of hell for other than these two species or creations, al-jinn wal-ins. There is no Jannah and Nar for the trees, nor for birds, nor for fish, or nor for animals, but only for humans and for the jinn. Why? Because we have been given this choice. In order to have an absolute justice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us hidayatul irshad. Everyone have an equal share of this kind of hidayah, which is the guidance of showing us the two paths, the good and the bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. By sending the prophets, by descending the revelations, by telling us what's right and what's wrong, and enjoining upon us to do the right and forbidding us from doing the bad. That's called Hidayatul Irshad. Everyone, Pat Robertson, you, I, the Pope, everybody is given the same share of this kind of hidayah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that this person is going to be very arrogant, very awful, very stubborn, and a criminal or a disbeliever. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recorded in a record with him, this is what this person is going to choose. So our actions are divided into two categories. Some actions which we have no control over whatsoever, such as that you and I and every human being were not consulted whether we would like to come to this life or not. Would like to be masculine or feminine, white or with dark complexion, tall or short, blind or with sight. No one, none of us. Sickness and health, poverty and richness. We have no choice in regard of provision, life and death, health and sickness, and so on. The only thing which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted us with, which is called al-amana, is the choice, whether to believe or to disbelieve. And based on this choice, which will be made solely by you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will compensate you for it. And that's why He said, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. Your actions, yes, they have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but who did them? You did it. By force, or you were given the choice to do it? Definitely by our free will. Now, before we started the program, he asked me, it's Isha time. Shall we pray Isha or shall we postpone it after the program? Then we thought about it and said, we're talking about deen, let's go pray Isha first. Right? That was our choice. Who could have decided otherwise? What the Prophet ﷺ answered his companions with, based on the two verses of Surah Al-Layl, which I started the answer with, that اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له. Allah will facilitate for the believers to choose what's good based on His infinite knowledge that He knew by His infinite knowledge from them that those guys will choose to be good.
Yes.
So He gave them an easy path, an easy way, facilitated for them the good doing, and He made it liked and dear to their hearts.
Yes.
So somebody would stand up at night and would take 3 or 4 hours of his sleep in prayer. Somebody also said, it's impossible. I'd like to enjoy my night, like to enjoy sleep, and others will be drunk in the nightclub. But this person chose, that's his fun, that's his joy, to stand up and pray at night. That was his choice. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitated for him, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and He made it very clearly, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills to be a disbeliever, let him disbelieve. But based on our choices, there will be either a reward or punishment. Wallahu alam. Similar to, just quickly, I always like to give this example because when I was young, our teachers explained it to us the same way.
SubhanAllah.
If you're a parent, or if you're a father, and you have several kids, and somebody asks you about one of them, and he said, you looked in your watch, you say, he must be in the masjid because I know that on Tuesday or whatever, around the same time, he attends the halqa in the masjid. Or he is attending here and there because you know that this child of yours is righteous. His choice are like that.
Yes.
And he asks you what another one, who is also your son, you say, he must be at the coffee shop. Or he must be hanging around with girls. He's your son. Would you like for him to do that? No, I don't, but what can I do? He's grown up. He chose to do that. So I would ask you, how did you know? How did you know?
Yes.
Do you have some security cameras and satellite that install in their bodies where you can know GPS? Where are they right now? No. But because of their habits. And you're very close to them, so you know their choices. And you're a human being. Is it too much for Allah, who is the Creator, who has the beautiful attributes that no one is equivalent or compared to Him, to know before creating us what would be the choices of each and every one of us? Anyway, this concept would be only absorbed by one who truly believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, our next email is also from the United States of America, and it's from a brother called Abu. He said, what do you say about Muslim leaders who refuse Sharia law?
Very important question. I would just eliminate one word, which is Muslim leaders. I would just make it, what do you think of Muslims who object or refuse applying the Sharia in their daily lives? Why only Muslim rulers? What about you? What about you, Fuad? What about me? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not address only the Muslim rulers. Rather, في Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. That's a very serious threat and decision. Nay, by your Lord, they do not believe. They believe not. Whom? And why? And what would they do to make them not believers? فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِمَّا قَضَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. There are 3 levels, 3 steps. In order to be a true believer, you must fulfill. You must do strictly. Number 1, seeking the judgment of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all of our daily and worldly affairs. Not just concerning cutting off the hand of the thief and stoning the adulterer or the adulteress if they were married, or concerning everything. Marriage conflict. Before going to the court and attacking each other and hiring a lawyer, If he is going to make up a case out of nothing and forge some false evidences in order to win a case, then he should be called a liar, not a lawyer. So the wife knows that her husband is not like that, but she's filing a lawsuit against him in order to be divorced. And maybe she's wearing hijab and she's reading the Quran or memorizing Quran, but when it comes to worldly conflicts, she does not recognize the Quran. She neglects the Sharia. So whether it's an individual, or a small group, or a big party, or a sect, or a ruler, a ruled or a ruler, a ruled person or a ruler, this applies to everyone. If you reject the ruling of Allah, then you're not a believer. SubhanAllah. This is what Allah said in Surah An-Nisa. فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Okay, I agree. Let's seek the judgment of Allah. Well, the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you're wrong and you should be punished for that. You know what? I think I may resort to another view. Or let me consult somebody else. In this condition, you're not a believer still. It is not only consulting the religion or seeking the judgment of the Quran and the Sunnah, then rejecting it or neglecting it. No. The second step is ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِمَّا قَضَتْ. They have no problem with the ruling of you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then after his death, the Quran and the Sunnah, they do not object to that. وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. And they give up totally. If this is the case, Allahu Akbar. Whenever I remember Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, when he was taken to a court by a Jew, the judge was appointed by Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Ali ibn Abi Talib is standing in a court before a judge who's been appointed by him in a dispute between him and a Jew. And the judge judged for the Jew, knowing that this armor belonged to Ali ibn Abi Talib. But Ali ibn Abi Talib did not have the evidence that he owned it, because the armor was possessed already by the Jew. Once the Jew heard the judge saying, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, then it's his. Because he said, yes, I have a witness, my son. He said, you know that the testimony of a son for his father is invalid. Allahu Akbar. His son, whom the Prophet ﷺ said about Al-Hasan al-Husayn, they are Sayyida Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, the most trustworthy youth. But still, court in Islam is a court. No favors.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Let not the enmity between you and others divert you from being just. You must be just even with your enemies. So in this case, the Jew, after he heard the ruling, he was mesmerized. He could not believe his ears. He said, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. So his iman came as a result of conviction. Of conviction of what? How Muslims practice their deen and followed strictly the guidance of the Quran and the Sunnah. So the ayah is very clear. The answer to the question: one who rejects the word of Allah, one who does not want to resort to the ruling of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, well, in the 21st century is not befitting anymore, he is not a believer. That is the word of Allah. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, we have another email here from Brother Abdul Malik from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He said, what is the ruling about drinking according to the Quran and Hadith? And he wants to know in order to advise his friend who is drinking very hard at the moment.
Drinking is absolutely prohibited and haram. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the fourth stage of prohibiting drinking in Islam, and by analogy every narcotics or every intoxicant, whether it's liquid or solid or powder, take it by through inhalation or injection or by any route. إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. And he began the verse by saying, يا أيها الذين آمنوا. He's addressing the believers. Indeed, الخمر والميسر, خمر, alcohol or anything that's similar to it, any intoxicant. Because the word khamr in the Arabic language is ما خامر العقل, and that's why we say a woman is wearing a khimar, because it's a veil. So when somebody drinks anything and it acts as a veil or a screen over his mind, he is absent-minded. And we have seen on those shows when the cops in North America, for instance, they stop an alcoholic person or a driver who's drunk, and they ask him to walk head to toe. They can't. Why? Because they're intoxicated. They're drunk.
Yes.
They look miserable. They utter miserable statements. The mind is veiled. So khamr, al-maysir likewise, which is gambling. All of that was put in the same verse. This is all haram, and it is filthy work of Satan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about it, فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. So you must avoid it totally. The word ijtinab is not only concerning drinking, any dealing with it. Business transactions, selling, buying, serving. Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam cursed everyone who deals with alcohol directly or indirectly. Even the waiter, the one who offers, introduces, the stock boy, the one who puts it in the shelves, etc. So this is from the Quran. What about the punishment? The had, which we call it the had. If you transgress it, then there is a physical punishment in this life. Then there is a punishment in the hereafter. The punishment of the hereafter, that you will be deprived from drinking the khamr of al-akhirah.
Subhanallah.
وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Second, in this life, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam lashed and beat a person who drank during his life. In the hadith, it was 40 times. In one hadith, it was with the shoes. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq followed the same way, lashing 40 lashes. Then Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, gathered the companions, Ahlul Badr, and he consulted them. Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Ali ibn Abi Talib, they reasoned. And you know, the ijma' of the Sahaba is hujjah. The general consensus of the companions is a proof that should be followed. Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, said, well, what are the results of being intoxicated? When somebody drinks, yahdi, then he's drunk. He doesn't know what he's saying. So he can actually falsely accuse a chaste man or woman with any false accusation. What is the punishment for al-qadhf, or giving a false accusation to a chaste man or woman in Islam? It's 80 lashes. So he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, then the least punishment should be 80 lashes. So they agree to that. And that's why Al-Ahnaf, Imam Abu Hanif and his school of thought, Wal-Malikiyya, Imam Malik and his school of thought, are of the view that the had, the punishment for a person who drinks in this life, 80 lashes. And Imam al-Shafi'i said 40. And anyway, even al-Shafi'i said 40, but he said the other 40 are ta'zir, which then there is no problem between the scholars in this regard. Because the Prophet ﷺ prescribed 40, and the other 40 are meant as ta'zir. Ta'zir means ta'deeb, or disciplining. Strengthening the punishment in order to repel or stop people from committing such crime.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Sheikh, we'll take a short break here on Ask Huda, and we'll be back right after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Exploitation, hatred, all diseases of the heart. For the cure, join Huda TV every Sunday at 20 GMT for Moments for the Heart.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's good to have you back. You're watching Ask Huda. Just to remind you, we're not taking any telephone calls today. That is because today's episode is only for the emails you've been sending. And for those of you who would like to send us an email, you can send it at ask, that's ask, @huda.tv. Doctor, our next question is from Sister Sarah from London, and she says, what are the qualities a woman should look for in a man she wants to get married to, according to Islam?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyhi wa mustafah, thumma amma ba'. In the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَأَمَانَتَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ إِلَّا تَفْعَلُوا تَكُن فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ عَرِيضٌ. Which means if somebody proposes to your daughter or any girl who happen to be under your guardianship, whether you're a brother or an uncle or a grandfather or a father, who possesses these two qualities, religious commitment and honesty, is an honest person. Honesty includes truthfulness, trustworthiness, and honesty is a great quality that encompasses several other qualities as well. So if he is religiously committed and he is ameen, then zawwijhu, give him your daughter in marriage. If people would turn them back and turn them down because they do not possess other worldly qualities such as, he's kind of short, but he's bold. I wanted a fair person. I wanted a person who earns certain amount of salary every month. Or, in many cases like we see in Horizon magazine that such and such family are looking for a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
That's number one. He's got to be an MD, tall, and U.S. citizen. These are not the criterion that on what shall I look for a life mate for my daughter. Religious commitment and amana. Does it mean that he has to be poor? Or he has to be ugly looking? Or he has to be... No. But I'm talking about these are the qualities which we look for most. Similar to when the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, with regards to searching for a life mate for a female, تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ. For her beauty, a woman may be married for 4 reasons. For her beauty, for her family lineage, for her family position, and for her religious commitment. So the jamal, the mal, wealth and position, and the family lineage and prestige, then the religion. What did the Prophet ﷺ say in this regard? He said, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. So if you focus mostly on a woman who is religiously committed, then you're a winner. SubhanAllah. Many people misunderstand and misinterpret this hadith, and they think that the Prophet ﷺ said that you're not supposed to look for any other qualities, above 3 qualities, the beauty, wealth, and family position. No, the Prophet didn't say that. He said, these are the 4 qualities which people may look for in a woman that they wanted to marry to. But the most important quality is the religious commitment. So, if you find a woman who is religiously committed and she is very pretty and wealthy and she is a descent of a great family, then that will be wonderful. And if she have a sister, you can just call me as well. But if you can't, and you only find a woman who have 3 out of the 4, then one of the 3 has to be the religious commitment. What if you find a woman who only possesses 2 of the 4 qualities? Then one of the 2 qualities must be the religious commitment, and so forth. So what you need to focus on mostly is religious commitment. Why? Because all the other factors are transient. They're not stable.
Yes.
They can just go by. But what would last is the religious commitment. And you can experience the happiest life if you happen to marry to a woman or to a man. If you're a woman looking for a man, or a man is proposing to you, the religious commitment is the most important quality.
Okay. We also have a question here from Brother Abdul Mu'min from Nigeria, and he says, Salams, can you tell me if it's okay to be friend with a Christian girl? He's a Muslim.
Is it okay to be a friend with
Christian girl.
a Christian girl? No, it is not okay to be a friend with a girl who is not lawful to you. I mean, she is not one of your muharramat, and those who are muharramat were listed in Surah An-Nisa, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ. If she's not a mother or a sister or an aunt or a daughter or a stepdaughter or a stepmother or a mother-in-law. Those are the muharramat, or due to suckling. Okay? Other than that, she's a woman whom you may marry, then it is not permissible for you to establish any kind of relationship outside marriage with her. Even what you call it, this is an innocent friendship. That we just go out and perhaps we have dinner together, or I invite her every once in a while for a coffee and she does likewise. That's not permitted in Islam, whether she's Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or following any other religion. A girl in general. Likewise for a girl, if this person is not your male mahram, nor is he your husband, then it's not permissible to go out, to date, to talk unnecessarily with any person who is not lawful to you.
Okay, our next question is from Brother Naveed from the UAE, and he says, an Islamic bank is announcing target profit rate at the start of a term. It then invests the money to the depositors on mudaraba and musharaka basis for that term.
No.
Right? He said when the term matures after a few months, it gives profit to its account holders based upon the initial agreed rate. Although actual profit in the bank earned during that term might be different, it claims that it readjusts the profit sharing between the bank and the account holder at the end of the term so that it may give the profit that is initially agreed. Is this okay?
With regards to the initial agreement in the beginning, if we're talking about a fixed rate, we're not talking about that a fixed rate that I will give you 10% of what you deposit no matter what happens. Such thing is definitely riba.
Yes.
But if the initial agreement is talking about a fixed rate of the profit, which in case that there is a loss, that I would also share the losses with the same rate, then it is permissible. If you and I go in a partnership, you're just putting your money with me. I'm investing it. I'm trading, I'm buying, traveling, importing and exporting and so on. So I say, you're investing so much money, I would say, I will give you, according to your participation, 20% of the profit. After all expenses paid and bills and overhead, give you 20% of the net profit. So the 20% of the profit would definitely vary. Can anybody determine how much will be the profit before the contract is fulfilled? Before we finish the business and the deal? No way, especially if you're importing or exporting. So something might happen. It might, the profit which you're expecting might end up with a loss. So in this condition, the participants or ash-shuraka have got to share or to take a share of the loss as well. But those who have in the initial agreement that you're not responsible for any losses, and rather you will get certain amount of money, not percentage of the profit, certain amount of money, no matter what happens, this is what we call it riba.
Okay. We have a long email here from a sister as well. She says, I've watched the fiqh program on the administration, and I understand that most of the points, alhamdulillah, but there are still some few things that are not clear. She says, if a sister has established a 7 days menstrual cycle, for example, and then it becomes clean, and she says dryness with clear white discharge, then have ghusl and started to pray, but after 2 or 3 times, or even more than for months, the days she starts to bleed again and the blood looks like menstrual blood. What does she do?
Well, after the monthly period is over and she has seen the white discharge and she confirmed the purity, then whatever follows that is irregular bleeding. That's due sickness. That's why we call it irregular bleeding. Whether for hormonal disturbance or being exhausted or tired or exerting an extra effort for a reason or another, but this is not the haid, this is not the monthly period, because she have already exhausted the time and a few days pass by after she have seen the cleanness. So that will be treated in Islam as istihada. The regular bleeding or al-istihada does not stop a woman from praying or fasting or doing the regular activities, but she would be only required after purifying herself, to perform wudu for each fard prayer after entering the time. After hearing the adhan, or the time is due, the prayer time is due, she will perform wudu, and she will pray this fard and all the relating nawafil along with this fard with the same wudu. Then whenever there is a prayer time, after that you would have to make wudu once again.
Okay, and we have a question here from Amina, and she says, I would like to know from the Sheikh if he can give me an advice, what is the best age for my child to start memorizing Quran?
Once they know how to read and how to join letters together to pronounce words, you can start immediately, officially memorizing systematically. But as far as memorizing, how early would it start? Trust me, it can start as early as 2 and 2.5 years. If the child sees you praying and he or she would come and copy you, and I have seen younger than 2 years, would come and copy and join the parents in their prayer, then you can repeat Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, etc. And the child will be able to repeat after you and learn how to pronounce the words and the letters properly. But officially, to put them in a hifz school, I guess at the age of 5 to 6, that is the best time. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, we have another question here in Quran, and it says, can you touch and recite the Quran without ablution?
The more right view, no. According to the verse of Surah Al-Waqi'ah, which says, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. Yes, there is a difference of opinions in this regard, whether that's referring to the angels touching the preserved tablet or the wahy, or it is relating to the Quran being touched by the believers. As I say, the more right view, Wallahu a'lam, that it is not permissible to touch the Quran unless if you are in a state of tahara from both major and minor impurity.
Okay, and it says, in what way can we help the deceased? I heard it's not possible to read the Quran to pass the reward to the dead person. So how can the living person help the dead person?
There are so many ways. For instance, number one, which would not cost you any money, making dua. That is the most effective, and it is guaranteed that would benefit and would reach the deceased. Making dua. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Istaghfiru li'akhikum fa'innahu al-ana yus'al." After he buried one of the companions and they were fixing to leave, he said, "Wait a minute. Spend some time, make istighfar for your brother because he's being questioned right now." After his death, so al-istighfar was very useful and beneficial for him. Number two, the sound hadith of Imam Muslim, which is narrated, collected by Imam Muslim, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that nothing will benefit the dead after his death, the person after his death, except 3 things, and he mentioned one of them, a righteous child to pray for him after his death. So dua number 1. The continuous charity, that's also stated in the hadith of Imam Muslim, صدقة جارية أو علم ينتفع به أو ولد صالح يدعو له. So continuous charity, a charity which is continuous, which would last, such as if somebody in his life was able to build a masjid or participate somehow in building a masjid, or an Islamic school or a hospital or an orphanage, as long as it is existing and people benefiting out of that, there is a continuous reward. That's what we call it, continuous charity. Somebody died and he did not have an access to any of that. Water fountain, everybody can afford to do that. If you just put a water fountain in front of a masjid where people passing by can drink, this is a continuous charity. Its reward, if you say, "Oh Allah, give the reward of such and such deed to this person," it would reach him, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ said, أَفْضَلُ الصَّدَقَةِ سُقْيَ الْمَاءِ. The best charity is to offer water to those who are thirsty. So water fountain is one thing. Somebody cannot even afford to establish or build or buy a water fountain. What about buying a couple of Qur'ans and putting them in a school or in one of the masajid, so that whenever they have halqa or somebody is waiting for the prayer, opens the Qur'an and reads? That's a reward that will pour in the account of the dead person. There are other means, such as if one can afford to perform Hajj or Umrah on behalf of a deceased, that too would benefit him by the leave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, we have another email here from Brother Yunus, and he's from the Netherlands, and he says he's 12 years old, and he wants to know if handicapped people goes to paradise.
Whether handicapped or healthy people, what determines who will go to paradise is their actions, their deeds. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. So whoever's good deeds would outweigh his or her bad deeds, inshallah they will enter heaven. And vice versa. But with handicapped people, they have been tested with some sort of disability. For being patient for this test and trial, they get more reward than the healthy people. Like the hadith in which the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to a woman who was having seizures. She was epileptic. And she came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to pray for her cure. He said, if you wish, I would ask Allah to cure you, and you will be cured. But if you wish to be patient, and Allah will reward you for your patience, heaven. She said, well, then I would rather be patient and enter heaven. So in this hadith is an indication that for tests and calamities and disabilities, if one is being patient and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, even if it is a disability, that would add up to the asset and the account of his good deeds.
Okay, we have another question here from Brother Muhammad Akhlaq from Bangladesh, and he says it's a tradition that when someone, after the burial, they will get together and try to finish the saying of La ilaha illallah 124,000 times. And we finish by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Is there any hadith in Islam?
There is no basis whatsoever for such practice.
Okay, we have another email here from Sri Lanka, and he says it's from a sister called Fatima, and she says she likes watching Huda TV, but she says I'm removing the hair of the newborn baby. Should it be done on the 7th day? Is this true, and what is the Islamic rule for this?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the notice, and we appreciate that you're watching Huda TV. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all the viewers and their families. With regards to shaving the hair of the newborn on the 7th, that is a sunnah. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ مَرْهُونٌ or مُرْتَهَنٌ بِعَقِيقَتِهِ. On the 7th day, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recommended that we should offer the aqiqah, shave the head of the baby boy, not the girl, give equal to the weight of that hair, a charity of silver, and give him a name on that day. That is the sunnah. If one fails to do it on the 7th, then on the 14th or the 21st, or in any other day.
Okay, we have another email here about trimming the hair, but this is from a sister. She says, can a Muslim woman trim the hair on the head if the hair drops a lot?
No problem, as long as she would not resemble a man, or a haircut of a man, or a haircut of non-Muslims who are called celebrities, and a woman is trying to copy them.
Okay, and we have a question here from Sumaya from Qatar. She says, I have a doubt regarding the prayer. Can a mother who has more knowledge of Quran in the family, and her grown-up son is 25 years, can the mother lead the prayer?
Definitely not. If the son is grown up and knows how to recite the Quran, or he even knows how to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, then he should be the one who lead the prayer. It is not permissible for a woman to lead the prayer with men under any circumstances.
Okay, we also have Sister Fatima from the United States of America. She says, I want to follow the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. I've already learned the Arabic alphabet and I've started reciting the Quran.
MashaAllah.
But please give me an advice. What are the best books towards following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ?
Towards following the Sunnah, there are tons of books, but as a beginner, I would recommend for you to study the book of Riyadh al-Salihin. There is a beautiful book which is edited or commented on by Sheikh al-Albani, which is called Fiqh al-Sunnah with Tamam al-Minna, that will teach you the proper fiqh, and it will also mention the views of different schools of thoughts, and it may choose for you the more right view, and so on. The commentary by Sheikh al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on him, and the author of the book, Sheikh Sayyid Sabiq, may Allah have mercy on all of them, they passed away, is a beautiful combination, because it will tell you whether this hadith is sound or not, etc. Also, in Sirah, I normally recommend the single volume, which is Al-Rahiq Al-Makhtoum by Safiya Ar-Rahman Al-Mubarakafuri, may Allah have mercy on him as well. If you want to expand, then there is a beautiful book which is called Zad Al-Ma'ad by Sheikh Ibn Al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. That's time for today, and we would like to thank you first of all for being with us here on Ask Huda. We would like to say also Jazakallah khair to all the viewers who've been sending us emails, and if you have more email to send, you can do that by sending it at ask@huda.tv. And don't forget, all the viewers who've been supporting us, you can still support us at support@huda.tv. And don't forget to visit our website www.huda.tv. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
If my love is attached to thee, then from sins I will be free. Each time my heart will beat, your name will resound with heat. Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.